Amazing 12-year-old girl stuns courtroom. I'm my father's lawyer. Discover her incredible transformation. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs, a fine tension hanging in the air, as Emily Johnson stared at her father, whose name echoed with whispers of guilt. A mechanic, respected by some, suddenly painted as a thief in their small town of Maplewood. At just 12, Emily felt the weight of the world, her voice trembling with unspoken fear. Could she really stand up for him? Did anyone even believe he was innocent? The skepticism of adults engulfed her, painting her internal landscape with doubts. With each passing minute, she grappled with conflicting emotions. How could they dismiss her father so easily? Anger swirled in her chest, an abiding loyalty to a dad who had raised her on his own since her mother left. This was a man who fixed broken engines and relied on old-fashioned integrity. The betrayal of his character gripped her. But deep inside, another fear brewed, a nagging uncertainty about her own capabilities. Could she find the words to fight for him? To challenge the assumptions that threatened to snuff out their fragile stability? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emily's heart raced as she clutched her notepad, papers trembling slightly in her grasp. Mr. Thompson, the retired lawyer with a kind smile and soft gray hair, had instilled a flicker of hope within her. He believed in her, but self-doubt clawed at her insides, discontentment tightening her chest as she watched the judge's unreadable expression. The idea of stepping into the spotlight both thrilled and terrified her. What if she failed? What if they all laughed? It was a battle between her budding determination and the weight of expectation. She had no real experience in this world of suits and legal jargon. Yet her father's future lay on a precipice, forcing her to confront her own fear, a clash of childhood innocence with the harsh realities of adult life. Her resolve sharpened as the tension in the courtroom amplified, leaving her trembling with anticipation. Before she realized it, time stretched unbearably. As the prosecution wrapped up their convoluted arguments, Emily's mind spun with fragments of her plan. What if she revealed the truth? Voices echoed in her head, doubts spiraling. Did anyone consider her a serious contender in this arena? The disappointment of failure weighed heavily. In her eagerness, she knew she had to act. As she stood, the air thickened, the crowd silenced. With a newfound courage, Emily declared, "I'm my father's lawyer." The weight of those words rocked through the courtroom. What would they say now? Would they look at her differently? Staring down at her notepad, she harnessed her fears into a fierce desire for justice. Like a lighthouse in a storm, she both feared and craved the clarity that could only come from the truth. The echoes of disbelief around her barely registered as she prepared to challenge them. But before she could articulate her strategy, an unexpected figure stepped forward, an old friend of her father ready to shake the very foundation of the case. Emily's heart stumbled, uncertainty flickering within. What would this revelation mean for her now? The battle for her father's dignity was just beginning, and she was ready, now more than ever, to uncover the truth. Emily stood frozen as the old friend of her father stepped forward, his presence rippling through the courtroom like a stone tossed into a quiet pond. This was someone she barely recognized, yet felt an instinctive connection to based on the stories her father told. What had he seen? What did he know that could turn the tide in their favor? Her heart thrummed in her chest. This could be the break she had desperately needed to validate her choice to stand up for her father. But the swirl of possibilities ignited a sense of urgency in her. She didn't want to waste this opportunity, and yet there was a nagging voice in her head asking if she was ready to handle this monumental responsibility. Emily's fingers tightened around the notepad, her lifeline. As she watched the man approach the stand, her mind raced ahead of her. What if he didn't hold the key to her father's innocence? What if his testimony brought forth more questions than answers? With every thought came an onslaught of doubt. Yet, beneath it all, flickered a determination. If she had the chance to hear the truth, to uncover the details that had been shrouded in suspicion, she had to seize it. "Your Honor," the man began, his voice resonating through the room, "I can shed light on the events that transpired the night in question." Emily's breath caught in her throat. There it was, the moment she needed, the catalyst she had been waiting for. She felt her adrenaline surge, a mix of excitement and trepidation. She was not merely her father's daughter. She was part of this intricate web of truth-seeking. What seemed to be a straightforward recollection soon spiraled into a revelation that sent her crashing into deeper thought. The friend recounted how he had spotted suspicious activity near her father's shop, a detail that had been overlooked or willfully ignored by those pushing the narrative against him. Emily's mind raced with implications. The strength of her father's character, his hard work, his integrity, stood on the verge of being misrepresented. Sitting back down, Emily fumbled her notepad, scribbling fervently. Context is everything, she thought. The truth, she realized, had always been a multifaceted gem, sparkling. Under the scrutiny of the right questions, she felt empowered, even as a torrent of signs pointed to her growing realization. She had a voice, a perspective that mattered amidst a sea of disbelief. As her father's friend finished his testimony, she caught glimpses of the judge's thoughtful expression, the murmurs of the courtroom stirring. Perhaps, just perhaps, she was beginning to break through the fog of their skepticism. There was still so much left unsaid, yet every addition rekindled the determination smoldering within her. But just as those hopeful thoughts spiraled, another figure emerged from the back of the court, a familiar face at odds with everything they had built. Her mother, who had left them for a different life, a life Emily had fought to distance herself from, now stood at the threshold of the courtroom. As her heart raced for a new reason, an unsettling mix of emotions breached the surface. What did her return mean? Would she support the family or further complicate Emily's burgeoning battle for truth? Would she tear down the defenses Emily had so carefully built, or could her presence somehow fortify them? Emily took a deep breath, reminding herself that every moment, every person, and every truth mattered. It was time for clarity. Now she would need to uncover her mother's intentions, while simultaneously maintaining her own resolve in the fight for her father's freedom. The courtroom had become a cauldron of unresolved tensions, and for Emily, the stakes had never been higher. As her mother approached, she felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. In this quest for justice, new alliances, old wounds, and hidden truths would soon collide. What was her mother's role in this unfolding drama? And could Emily maintain her resolve amidst the reappearance of the one person who had left her with so many questions? Emily's attention snapped back to the present as her mother stepped forward, each stride echoing in the charged atmosphere of the courtroom. It was as if the air thickened, weaving a tapestry of trauma, unresolved history, and a hint of trepidation that enveloped them all. Emily. Her mother's voice was a shaky whisper, burdened by the weight of years apart. Why are you here?" Emily interrupted, feeling a surge of anger rise within her. She couldn't afford distractions, not now, when everything seemed poised on a precipice. "I came to support you," her mother said quietly, but the words felt hollow. Emily studied her face, searching for sincerity amidst the years of hurt and disappointment. There had always been a chasm between them, one only widened by her mother's absence. Support, after all this time? Emily's own voice was fierce.
reflecting the mix of emotions battling within, longing for the mother she had, resentment for the void left behind. "Do you even understand what you're asking?" Her mother stepped closer, the vulnerability in her eyes striking a nerve. "I know I've made mistakes, but I want to help. I can explain things, my side of it." "Help?" Emily's heart raced.
You think now is the time for that? My father's life is on the line, and you show up out of nowhere? The courtroom buzzed with disapproving murmurs, catching their exchange as the tension crested. Each murmured word felt like a dagger, intensifying the spotlight on them. Emily couldn't allow her mother's presence to divert the focus from the fight ahead. Frustration bubbled within her, and yet her mother's plea raised a question. What if there were truths her mother held that could help in her father's defense? The notion gnawed at Emily. She wanted clarity, but feared what that clarity might reveal. "Why now? Why not before?" Emily demanded, her voice lowering, edged with an emotional rawness. She had waited too long, sacrificed too much to let this unexpected reunion unravel her resolve. "I had to work up the courage to come back," her mother answered, her tone humble. "You have every right to be angry, but I know things about that night, things that could change everything." Emily's heart pounded. Could she trust her mother's motivations? Yet with each passing second, the urgency pressed closer. She couldn't ignore the potential allies standing before her, even with the heartbreak that lingered between them. "What kind of things?" Emily pressed, her skepticism momentarily tempered by a rush of hope. Her mother's gaze flickered away, then found Emily's again, resigned but resolute. "I was afraid of what might happen if I spoke up. But your father deserves the truth. You deserve that too." With the courtroom audience watching, Emily weighed her options. The very sight of her mother triggered buried memories of pain and chaos. Yet this was a dramatized crossroads demanding a choice. "Fine," she said, her voice unwavering. "If you want to help, you'll have to be honest with me. I can't afford any more lies." The judge's gavel silenced them momentarily as he summoned order to the room. The flicker of determination within Emily's chest ignited anew. She considered the implications of her mother's involvement and how much strength it took to confront past demons, much like she was doing herself. As her mother prepared to speak, Emily wondered how this would alter their fragile dynamic. Could they navigate the labyrinth of truth together? Could this be the pivotal moment that reshaped not just her case, but their relationship? The judge motioned for order as Emily exhaled slowly. This was a dangerous gamble, one that could either play into her narrative or unravel it entirely. As she turned to her father across the court, the weight of the moment pressed on her shoulders. Did she have the strength to embrace this evolution, to redefine her role not just as a daughter, but as an emerging strategist in her own right? Now, with the potential for revelation swirling around her, she needed to decipher whether collaboration could breathe life into her father's defense, or if it would plunge them deeper into chaos. Her mother opened her mouth to speak, but it was the judge's voice that condemned. "I will allow this testimony, but I expect clarity and relevance, ma'am." Emily's pulse quickened. What could this sudden alliance yield, and was she prepared to face the ramifications of the truth? With everything on the precipice, one question loomed larger than the rest. Would finding answers lead to salvation or instigate a new battle for her identity amid the storm? The room settled as Emily's mother took a deep breath, the intensity palpable. Emily leaned forward, demanding focus. She needed every ounce of courage to weather her mother's words. This was not merely about her past, but her father's potential future. "I need you to understand," her mother began, hesitating as if grappling with the weight of her choice. "That night was beyond what you believe. Your father, he wasn't just a bystander. He was drawn into something that spiraled out of control. Emily's skepticism swelled again. Are you saying he was involved? How can I trust anything you say after all this time? A part of her craved the truth, but another part felt betrayed by the echoes of history. What if her mother's admission not only implicated her father further, but also fragmented the little stability they still possessed as a family? I was scared, Emily. Her mother's voice cracked, her eyes glistening with a mix of regret and urgency. Scared of what it would mean to speak. But your father deserves his chance at the truth, and so do you. The courtroom remained silent, each individual hanging on her every syllable. The murmurs had transformed into an oppressive stillness where every heartbeat felt magnified. This was a choice, one Emily needed to wrestle with in her gut. If you want to help, start at the beginning. What happened that night? Emily's resolve hardened. She had been through too much to allow uncertainty to drown her now. Her mother glanced at the judge, a silent plea for permission to unravel the tangled web. The judge gave a slight nod, urging her to proceed. It was a party, she started slowly, the memories pouring back as if they had been bottled up for years. There was drinking, arguments. Your father got swept up in it, not in a way you might think, but her voice trembled again, revealing layers of a truth too raw to articulate easily. Just say it. Emily's impatience grew, desperation clawing at her. Someone else was involved, someone who was dangerous, and your father, he'd never wanted to be a part of their world, her mother confessed. But in trying to protect you, he got cornered. I saw it happening and did nothing because I thought it was just one mistake. Heart racing, Emily felt the facade of her life cracking, revealing faults she'd long denied. Was her father's choice to protect her truly a liability? Was her mother's inaction a symptom of deeply rooted fear? Layers of disappointment and anxiety coiled within her, battling for dominance. The stage was set for revelation, not only about her father's past, but her own lineage, a legacy of mistakes and misjudgments. What more had her mother kept hidden? Your father's innocence isn't just about facts. It's about the choices we make to shield ourselves and those we love. That night was chaotic and deceptive, and it altered everything, her mother continued, her voice gaining confidence. The truth will defend him because he didn't act out of malice. The room's energy shifted. It was clear that some, including the judge, resonated with her mother's authenticity, while others remained skeptical. But as the layers peeled back, Emily felt her perspective shifting. Who did she want to be now? The gavel came down again, a reminder of the court's structure amid emotional chaos. Order, the judge commanded, but Emily's mind raced with possibilities. This wasn't just her father's defense. This was an awakening for her. With this new information, Emily's role was evolving. She had to navigate not just the courtroom, but her relationship with her mother. If their collaboration became a weapon to wield, could they finally heal, or would it shatter everything more? Do you mean to say there's more evidence, more we can use? Emily pressed, feeling a determination surging inside her, a spark lit by newfound clarity. Her mother met her gaze, the gravity of their choices binding them. Yes, but initially you must trust me. But trust was a fragile thread, and Emily's past pushed against that fragile idea like a tidal wave. The courtroom's fate hung in the balance, and time swung heavy against her. I need to know what I am getting into, Emily stated resolutely, because if we're in this together, it can't just be about surviving. Right now, I'm stepping into a fight, and I'll need to know everything. I'm not afraid to challenge you to be honest. With the next words still unspoken, the courtroom felt charged again, a mix of fear and anticipation threading through the crowd. Emily sensed a shift in not only her approach, but her identity. She was not merely a daughter, but an advocate, armed with a search for truth. Would acceptance of her mother's revelations strengthen her resolve, or would it pull her into deeper uncertainty, challenging everything she thought she knew? Suddenly, Emily glanced toward the judge, her next words ready to ignite a direction for both her father's fate and her own personal evolution. But how deep would this journey into their collective truth take her? As the gavel struck for silence, the tension in the courtroom thickened, as if the world had narrowed down to just Emily and her mother. The weight of the moment pressed upon her, a sensation she had never encountered before. She had come to terms with the fact that their lives were intertwined with trials of secrecy and fear. But now they were standing at the precipice, about to uncover a reality that could shatter or heal them both. Each question she formulated in her mind brought forth a wave of anxiety, but also exhilaration, rippling with potential. Emily leaned into what she now understood was a fight. Not just for her father's freedom, but a quest for her own identity. She clenched her fists, conscious that each word could pivot her family from ruin to redemption. "What will it take?" she demanded, urgency lacing her tone. Her voice gained an unexpected authority, each syllable a declaration of her readiness to confront whatever lay ahead. "Tell me what we need to do to find this evidence. I want to help. No, I need to help." Her mother's eyes shimmered with tears of relief and remorse. "Every piece of information we gather matters. There are records, witnesses, people who can speak up." Her mother hesitated, a shadow crossing her face. "But this will require more than just effort. It demands bravery and trust." Emily nodded, her heart pounding. Bravery had never been in question. Trust, however, was another beast entirely. Leaning back, she considered her options. If stepping into her father's shoes as an advocate meant building a bridge with her mother, could she risk the failure of that bond? Would opening herself up to betrayal only expose her to more pain? "What about you?" Emily challenged, noting the fear simmering just beneath her mother's resolve. "Can I trust you to lead us in the right direction? Because if this falls apart, then it falls apart together," her mother interrupted, a new steeliness in her voice. "This is not just about your father. It's about us, Emily. We have to be on the same team. I will not lie to you again." With unyielding candor, Emily studied her mother's face, a swirl of emotions dancing like fireflies, hope, despair, and an uncharted longing for connection. She had rarely seen this level of honesty from her mother. It was terrifying, but also promising. "Let's start with the witnesses," she prompted, mentally shaking off the shackles of doubt. "Who was there that night you mentioned? Mark their names and let's gather our questions." With newfound purpose, Emily reached for any notepad lying around, fulfilling the role of a true investigator. The station felt familiar. She had always been one to organize information, but now it felt like crafting a new legacy rather than simply honing a skill. As her mother began to outline names and potential leads, a surge of determination coursed through Emily. This was actionable. She could feel the strength building inside her, the palpable realization that she had agency in this fight. They drew closer together over the flat surface of the table, a coalition born not of distance but necessity. Yet in the back of her mind lurked another question. If this collaboration healed together now, what would happen if her mother faltered again? Would it prompt her to retreat into a shell again? Or would it galvanize her toward confrontation? Defiance surged, refusing to allow doubt to cloud their focus. Emily wasn't just acquiring testimony. She was wielding it as a weapon, forging a path toward empowerment not just for her father, but also for herself. "Does he know about this plan?" she asked, the worry creeping back. "Will this endanger him if they find out we're gathering evidence?" "Your father deserves honesty, Emily," her mother responded, finally meeting her gaze head-on. We must decide together what risks we're willing to face. The atmosphere sparkled with urgency and purpose, revealing a blueprint of unrest. Emily understood that the landscape ahead, comprising secrets and revelations, could drastically alter her perception of the past, present, and future. "We can do this," Emily asserted, emboldened by the prospect. "But it's got to be all in, no half measures." Their joined resolve was almost tangible. She sensed a shift, both inside and out. The pieces of a puzzle began weaving into a coherent picture, but she knew that no path forward would be easy. As they exchanged tactical approaches, Emily felt the edges of her identity sharpening. She was stepping up, not as a passive player in this courtroom drama, but as a crucial decision-maker in her family's narrative. This was more than survival. This was about taking the reins. But before they could plunge into execution, a distant sound caught Emily's ear, muffled, intrusive, and unmistakably ominous. Gears were running, but were they on a collision course? A sense of foreboding wrapped around her. "Mom," Emily whispered, her mind racing. "What if there's more to this than we know? What if we unearth something that reveals deeper connections?" Her mother's expression shifted, understanding the weight of her daughter's insight. They were standing on the edge of an abyss whose depth they couldn't yet fathom. Could they afford to dig deeper when every excavation threatened to expose secrets buried for years, a past that might shatter their already fragile foundation? The courtroom awaited, the day of reckoning drawing near, and Emily was resolved. She would not let fear dictate her next steps. She would fight for the truth, even if doing so meant confronting the dark chapters of her family's history. How far would she go to reveal the truth? And, more importantly, at what cost would it come? As Emily prepared for the next phase of their investigation, an unsettling energy thrummed just beneath the surface of her resolve. The unopened drawer of her father's desk beckoned with unspoken truths, but she felt a strange hesitation, rooted in the knowledge that some choices could lead to irreversible consequences. "Let's split up," she proposed, driving the point home with newfound daring. "I can ask around the school, get some leads from classmates or teachers who might know something. You could reach out to your connections, see if anyone at the old firm remembers anything relevant." Her mother's brow furrowed, skepticism playing across her face. "That could take time, Emily. What if we're too slow? What if someone finds out what we're doing?" "I know people are watching," Emily asserted, heart quickening as she conceived a plan. "But we can't measure strength in caution. We need to act before the window closes on us." The intensity of her urgency revealed something unexpected, deepening her confidence. She wasn't merely a pawn in someone else's game. She was becoming a player. As she took a deep breath, her mind flickered back to her parents' arguments, to how often she had felt trapped in the crossfire of their divided loyalties. But this was different. Now she was on her own side, crafting her narrative. "Emily, don't set expectations too high," her mother cautioned. "There's a reality we have to face. What if we don't find anything?" The question hung before them like an apparition. Emily could almost hear her own heartbeat in the silence, a reminder that she needed to confront the hidden specter of her father's past head-on. "Then we'll adapt, we'll pivot, but we have to start digging." With a nod of reluctant agreement, her mother picked up the phone, the weight seated heavily on her fingertips. Emily's heart raced as she watched, interpreting this as an act of vulnerability. This was the moment her mother let down her guard, an admission of their need for each other, just as they needed the truth. When the call ended, her mother's expression morphed into something akin to determined anguish. "I'll visit a few contacts this evening. In the meantime, you should work on your approach. If you decide to confront anyone, be prepared. People can turn dark when cornered." Those words lingered in the air, an echo of emotions she hadn't fully processed. Could she truly tread into the unknown, not just for her father, but also in pursuit of understanding her own lineage?
Each inquiry could provoke a shifting of allegiances that might leave her exposed to endless betrayal or revelation. "Just remember, I'm your support," Emily heard herself mutter, although she didn't fully believe it. The weight of expectation cracked slightly. The reality was she stood on a precipice, a tightrope walk above a chasm filled with unfamiliar shadows. Instinct pushing her forward, she decided to visit places that once felt like a sanctuary. Her father's previous workplace, a law office where ambitious lawyers dared to tread. With each step through the quiet, echoing hall, the ambiance stirred memories that tugged at her heartstrings. She positioned herself as if part of this firm, 2 years removed from being a child hiding in plain sight. "Can I help you?" A receptionist quirked an eyebrow, eyeing her as though she were an interloper. Emily swallowed. "My father used to work here. I'm looking for anyone who could have seen him recently." As she spoke, a subtle authority emerged, a sense of purpose grounding her. Conversations flowed in fits and starts. Most employees seemed reluctant to revisit unsettling memories. But one, a young associate named Rebecca, paused under the weight of her questions. "What do you want to know?" she asked, adjusting her glasses with a wary curiosity that piqued Emily's interest. "Everything," Emily replied, all reservations slipping away. Though no obvious answers surfaced, the connection felt more profound, an acknowledgement that she would not easily be cast aside in this battle. That encounter opened doors. It propelled her forward, chasing a lead that flickered like a distant lighthouse. As she emerged into the street, ready to jot down her thoughts, Emily's phone buzzed violently. An unexpected message from her mother flashed on the screen, tinged with urgency. "We need to talk. Trust is fading." A wave of cold urgency washed over Emily. Her next response could fortify their alliance or expose it to new vulnerabilities. Would they be able to handle the revelations that awaited, or would their foundation shatter even further? With every new piece of information, every emotion set in motion, the stakes were rising. The truth was undeniably within reach, yet it came with no guarantees. Would it build a bridge between her family, or tear apart what little they had left? Her heart raced, sensing the tension of a fresh discovery lingering just beyond the horizon. What awaited in her mother's impending revelations? Would they unite or create further division as the final pieces fell into place? With uncertainty tangling in her stomach, Emily found a quiet corner in the park nearby, hoping to think through her next steps. The buzzing alert on her phone didn't feel like a simple message. It loomed like a storm cloud ready to unleash chaos. Trust is fading. The words echoed in her mind, a mantra of trepidation. The idea that her mother's trust might be slipping felt like a personal betrayal, an insidious thought that crept into her consciousness. What if her efforts led to more questions than answers? She took a moment to breathe, focusing on the intricate pattern of tree branches above her, searching for clarity amidst the conflicting emotions. Emily valued loyalty, but she now understood that loyalty without transparency could quickly erode. She needed to bridge that gap with her mother, or risk losing the only ally she had left. Dialing her mother's number, she felt the weight of the moment. "Mom, I saw your message. What's going on?" Her voice lingered on the edge of desperation. "Emily," her mother replied, tone brave. "I met someone who worked closely with your father. He knows things, and I'm afraid." The intensity of her mother's voice prodded Emily's instinct for caution. "What are we facing? Is it dangerous?" A hesitant pause pressed into the space between them. "No, not physically, but you have to be prepared for the truth. His choices had consequences, and some of those consequences affected us directly." The implications unfurled within her, like the disturbing shadows she had felt gathering around her father's past. Consequences. The word sparked a sense of realization. What had her father done that could tarnish their family name? Were they still paying for his mistakes? "You mentioned my father's choices. Do you mean legal choices?" Her voice sharpened as she pressed, intent on extracting any piece of information that would steer her understanding of their reality. "Yes, and it's complicated," her mother replied, a twinge of hesitation painting her response. "This person is in a tough place. I don't know if I
can trust him fully, but I need you to meet him." Emily's heart rate quickened. "Why me?" "Because you're the one who wanted to dig, who stepped up when I hesitated. You're also the one he might feel comfortable talking to." Silence blanketed the call, a mix of worry and determination settling into her bones. Could she face this mystery not merely as a spectator, but as an active participant? "When?" she asked, the word firm and determined. "Tomorrow. Please keep an open mind," her mother urged, "and don't let your feelings about your father cloud your judgment. This is information we need." Closing her eyes, Emily envisioned her father, the man she adored and hated in equal measure. The confidence she had felt earlier began to meld into resolve. Tomorrow's meeting would not just be about confronting the past. It would be an exploration into her identity and the legacy that had shadowed her family. Half eager and half apprehensive, she understood the significance of the moment. As she mulled over her mother's words, Emily acknowledged the potential of this encounter. An opportunity to draw the truth into the light, to redefine her own future. That evening, as dusk wrapped around her with its gentle embrace, she began to plan her questions meticulously, shaking off the weight of doubt and insecurity. In the depths of her mind, she realized she was no longer just a daughter seeking answers. She was becoming an investigator, delving into the complex narrative of her lineage. Tomorrow, she would confront the challenges laid before her. With each question she intended to craft, a new layer of strength formed within her. The night swirled with an electric pulse, a sense of impending transition. She was on the cusp of crucial revelations that might reshape who she thought her family was, who she believed herself to be. As sleep pulled her into its embrace, the thought lingered. Could the revelation of her father's past truly empower her to find her own path forward, even in the face of irrevocable truths? The flicker of unease returned, igniting an inexplicable anticipation for the revelations that awaited her the next day. What would she discover, and how would it mold the future she so desperately wanted to claim as her own? The sun cast a soft glow over the park the next morning, illuminating Emily's resolve as she prepared herself for the day ahead. Each question she had meticulously crafted danced in her mind, harmonizing with her pulse, a rhythm that echoed determination and fear in equal measure. Today it would be different. Today she would lay her foundation. Leaving her apartment felt like stepping into a threshold between two worlds. One held her memories of her father, tender, smiling, and full of life. The other loomed as an ominous void of secrets untold, riddled with implications she had yet to unpack. Distractedly, she navigated the city streets, the noise melting away as her inner dialogues took center stage. What would she say? How would the conversation? Her mother wanted her to perceive her? The mental preparations felt necessary, yet insurmountably daunting. She was no longer just Emily, the daughter. She was an agent of inquiry, equipped with a fierce curiosity and an open heart. As she arrived at the designated coffee shop, a quaint little place with warm wood paneling and aroma of freshly brewed coffee, anxiety twisted in her stomach. Would her inquiries be received as part of a loving daughter trying to understand her father's legacy? Or would she come across as a potential threat, prying too deep into territory better left untouched? Sitting at a table in the corner, she scanned the room, thoughts racing as she consciously sought calmness. Moments later, a man walked in, a carefully composed figure, his presence commanding yet approachable. His hair was peppered with gray, giving him the air of authority. He approached her table, extending a hand as a hesitant smile broke the tension. "You must be Emily," he said, his voice steady but kind. "I'm Andrew. Your mother mentioned you were eager to learn about your father." She met his gaze, a spark of defiance igniting in her. "I need to know what he did, what you know," she stated boldly, feeling every letter in the words strengthen her core. "I can't move forward until I understand the past." Andrew's brows furrowed slightly, a hint of respect in his demeanor. "Not many would approach this conversation as you are. Your father had many facets to him, and yes, mistakes were made. It's not a straightforward story, and I cannot share everything." Emily noted the caution in his tone. "I understand, but I believe knowing the truth will help me and my mother. I just want to piece things together." Andrew nodded thoughtfully, weighing his response. "Your father worked in a high-pressure environment, one riddled with unexpected choices. Many of his decisions played a role in the fallout that led to your family's struggles." He hesitated, searching for the right words. "Did you protect him?" The question slipped from her lips before she could filter it, the tension thickening the air around them. She was no longer simply asking for information, she was confronting an unwelcome reality. He shifted uncomfortably. "In a way, yes, but I also witnessed the ramifications of those choices. What he did was not out of malice, but desperation and flawed judgment." "Flawed judgment that affected our lives," Emily retorted, feeling her resolve harden. "I deserve to know the complete story, Andrew." The flicker of anger ignited something within her, a deeper understanding of her own emotions. She wanted to reclaim the narrative of her family, not merely as a passive participant, but as the architect of her own story. Their conversation unfolded rapidly from there, unearthing revelations about her father's past intertwined with her family history. Andrew shared snippets that painted a picture she had never seen before, a picture tinged with complexity, loss, and shadows. As they delved deeper, Emily felt the weight of her father's choices interlace with her own identity. Each fact unveiled another layer of pain, yet it fueled her growing determination to take control of her future, unmistakably steering her away from the idealization she had held tightly to. "No more shadows," she vowed silently, recognizing that she must navigate through the murkiness, past the inadequacies, and reclaim the narrative for herself. When their meeting concluded, Emily left the coffee shop feeling emboldened, yet acutely aware of the tasks ahead. The truth, though painful, was a catalyst for strength and growth. What she had learned transcended mere revelations. It ignited a fire within her, ready to forge her own path. But would the discovered truths empower her future, or threaten to unravel the figure of her father she had held on to? The questions lingered in her mind, demanding resolution. As she walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely the beginning. New possibilities sprawled before her, layered with complexities and challenges, but she was ready. What lay ahead would test everything she was beginning to understand about family, loyalty, and herself. With each step, resolve coursed through her veins. The confrontation hadn't just begun, it was only just getting started. Emily paced in her small, cluttered apartment, her hands trembling slightly, as the implications of Andrew's revelations churned in her mind. The shadows of her father's decisions pressed heavily upon her, transforming from distant memories into tangible burdens. She felt an urgency to act, to channel the fierce determination she had felt in the coffee shop into something constructive. With newfound resolve, Emily reached for her laptop, intending to document everything she had learned. Words flowed freely as she typed, ideas and emotions spilling out onto the screen as if liberated from the constraints of silence. The complex tapestry of her father's life, woven with both triumph and failures, began to take form with clarity in her mind. Yet, amidst the blossoming insights, a gnawing uncertainty crept in. How could she reconcile the man she once idolized with the man Andrew described? Navigating this mental maze was daunting, and the need for grounding became apparent.
Encouraged by her instinct to connect, she picked up her phone and called her mother. "Mom, do you have a moment?" Emily's voice wavered, but she pressed on, unwilling to falter. "There's so much we need to talk about. I met Andrew, and I learned a lot." A silence stretched on the line before her mother replied, her tone a mix of curiosity and caution. "It's been a while since I've heard his name, Em. What did he say?" Emily hesitated, sorting through the flood of emotions, the swirling mixture of resolve and fear. "It's not just about what he said," she started. "It's about understanding Dad. It's complicated, but I think it's important for both of us to confront it." Her mother's vocal hesitation echoed on the phone. "Are you sure you're ready to dive into this? It may bring up things we've buried. But how can we heal if we ignore the past? I want answers."
"And I think we should face this together," she urged, feeling the weight of her plea, but also the vulnerability of her request. Finally, her mother relented. "Okay, I'll listen. Maybe it's time we revisit those memories and see them for what they truly are." Relief washed over Emily as they arranged a time to meet. This conversation was essential. It would be a crucial step in bridging the chasm of misunderstandings and emotional scars that had long plagued their relationship. After hanging up, a wave of nervous energy surged through her. Emily needed more than just her mother's perspective. She craved knowledge and insight that could arm her for their conversation. She remembered Andrew mentioning the archives where her father's past was documented, a repository of records and files she had thought unremarkable until now. The next morning, Emily took a trip to the archive, her heart pounding in rhythm with the resolve of her mission. The building loomed large with an austere facade, but inside it was serene, filled with rows of documents waiting to be uncovered. She approached the receptionist, explaining her purpose with a growing sense of anticipation. The woman directed her to a reading room, surrounded by the whispers of time. Armed with a notepad and pen, Emily sifted through the files, letters, reports, and personal notes that shed light on her father's life choices. Each document peeled back layers of her perception, revealing insights that terrified and thrilled her. Here, she was no longer just piecing together a puzzle. She was confronting the very essence of her father's struggles and triumphs. Hours slipped by unnoticed, and within the maze of paper, Emily stumbled upon a personal letter that caught her breath. It was written in her father's hand, fraught with emotion, reflecting fears and regrets that mirrored her own. "I wanted to protect you both from my failures, but in doing so, I think I lost you," the words echoed painfully as she read. She closed her eyes, trying to absorb the weight of his vulnerability. The more she delved into his psyche, the more determined she became to honor his complexity rather than vilify the skeletons. Emily emerged from the archives ignited with purpose, ready to challenge the narratives that kept her in a state of paralysis. She returned home, her mind racing at the prospect of her upcoming conversation with her mother and the revelations the letter promised to unveil. Would this bridge their emotional divide, or would it open new wounds that could tear them further apart? The uncertainty gripped her. All the pieces were starting to converge in a way that both excited and scared her. The time had come to face the deeper truths and confront the legacy of her father head-on. Emily took a deep breath, steeling herself for the emotion-laden revelations that lay ahead. Could she navigate this journey without losing herself in the process? With her heart pounding in her chest, she thought, "It's time to finally learn who my father really was." How far would she go to uncover the truth? And what would she discover about herself in the process? Emily stepped into the coffee shop, anticipation thrumming in her veins as she prepared for the pivotal conversation with her mother. She needed to confront the complexities of their shared past and the shadow of her father that lingered over them both. This meeting, she realized, wasn't just about answers. It was about forging a new foundation of understanding. As her mother approached, a plume of apprehension filled the air. Emily noticed the lines etched in her mother's face, marks of regret, and perhaps hints of longing. She felt a swell of empathy. They were both navigating a stormy sea of emotions, yet today would mark the beginning of clarity. "Thank you for coming," Emily said, steadied her voice. Each word was heavy with significance, and she shifted in her seat, ready to unravel the tangled threads of their relationship. "I know we have a lot to unpack," her mother said gently. "I want you to ask whatever you need to, but please understand, some things are hard to share." "I appreciate that," Emily replied, unwavering in her determination. "But we can't heal while glossing over the truth. I want to understand Dad, not just as a hero or as a villain, but as a real person with flaws and strengths." The conversation unfolded with measured intensity. Each question met with pause and reflection. Emily read her mother's nuanced expressions: surprise, pain, and eventually acceptance. They began to explore the decisions that had shaped their lives, slowly peeling back the layers of misunderstanding. "Your father made mistakes," her mother admitted, voice cracking slightly under the weight of her honesty. "But those choices were rooted in his struggle to protect us, fueled by desperation in a world that often felt unrelenting." Emily felt a rush of understanding creeping in, challenging the black and white notions she had clung to for so long. Her father's intentions hadn't always aligned with his actions, but they stemmed from a desire to shield her from harm and heartbreak. That revelation redefined everything. "So, what you're saying is, his choices, however flawed, were not meant to hurt us," Emily mused, a measure of gratitude mixed with sadness settling in her chest. "We need to redefine who he was for us so that we can move on." Her mother nodded, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Exactly. We can't reshape the past, but we can navigate our present with it as a foundation. I can't change what happened, Emily, but I want to work with you to ensure we're not held captive by it." This was the shift Emily needed, a true partnership born from shared vulnerability. Together, they examined the files Emily had uncovered at the archives, piecing together a narrative that was both complex and human. They read the letter her father had written, each phrase spinning a web of emotion that unraveled the tightened knots in Emily's heart. "I want to honor his story, not to define it by his mistakes, but by how he fought against the current to keep our family together," Emily resolved, her voice firm and reflective. Her mother's eyes softened, a glimmer of hope breaking through the storm clouds of their turbulent past. That's exactly what he would have wanted, to know that even in his imperfections, he created a legacy of strength. With every shared anecdote and revelation, the weight of resentment began to dissipate, replaced by a poignant connection. They discovered a guide through the shadows, piecing together a path forward, a vision of growth transforming through determination. As they ventured out of the coffee shop, the world outside felt fundamentally different. They were no longer bound by the chains of the past, but were walking together into a promise of rebuilding. Emily felt a surge of confidence coursing through her. She had confronted the roots of her identity and emerged transformed. She had not only reclaimed her father's narrative, but had forged a new bond with her mother, two allies on a journey toward understanding and reconciliation. Their hearts, though bruised, would no longer be held hostage by the scars left by their shared history. Driven by this profound connection, Emily found herself equipped to take on the next steps. The courtroom awaited, the final battleground where their hard-won truths would shine. She could achieve not only her father's exoneration, but also a meaningful connection with her mother, one built firmly on trust and collaboration. In that moment, standing side by side, Emily finally understood what it meant to overcome. She had transformed from a hesitant girl into an advocate for truth and justice, not just for her father, but for herself and her mother as well. This was her personal triumph. "Together, we will make this right," Emily vowed, a spark of unyielding strength igniting her resolve. Empowered, she turned toward the horizon, ready to face the future with confidence and clarity. You need to subscribe now to our channel. This is the moment to show your support by clicking that subscribe button so you don't miss our next exclusive emotional stories that inspire real transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your engagement makes a difference, helping us reach those who need to hear these stories. Comment your thoughts and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you. What did you think of Emily's incredible journey? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Real fans of overcoming challenges understand the importance of sharing this journey.